Eudaimanya, systems and frameworks to improve habits, mind, and life.
Welcome to Eudaimanya. Today, we're unpacking a book that is, honestly, going to completely flip how you think about the most basic thing you do every single day. We're looking at Matthew Walker's incredible book, Why We Sleep. What Walker lays out here isn't just interesting science, it's a total paradigm shift for our daily lives, and it tackles a massive hidden problem we all face. So, let's start with a really familiar situation. Think about your own week so far. Have you actually gotten enough sleep? Can you even remember the last time you woke up completely refreshed, naturally, without that awful, jarring alarm clock, and without instantly needing a cup of coffee just to function? Well, if you're thinking, no, definitely not, you're in very good company. The numbers here are just wild. According to the book, a full 2/3 of adults in developed nations are failing to get the recommended 8 hours of sleep. 2/3. That means this constant exhaustion isn't some personal failing on your part, it's a massive invisible epidemic. It's affecting literally every aspect of our modern society. And here's the massive error we all make. We've somehow convinced ourselves that we can just sacrifice sleep in the name of productivity, right? We treat sleep like it's this luxury or like a bank account we can just overdraw from whenever we need to get a few extra things done, assuming there are no real penalties. But the consequences of that mindset, they are absolutely devastating. Walker breaks down the sheer physical toll, and it's scary. Routinely sleeping less than 6 or 7 hours a night essentially demolishes your immune system. It more than doubles your risk of cancer. Get this, just 1 week of moderately cutting back on sleep disrupts your blood sugar so much that a doctor would classify you as pre-diabetic. Plus, it actively sets your coronary arteries on a path toward dangerous blockage. Which brings us to this punchy, brilliant quote from the author. He points out that the old tough guy maxim, "I'll sleep when I'm dead," is incredibly unfortunate. Because, as he says, adopt this mindset and you will be dead sooner. And the quality of that shorter life will be significantly worse. We're talking about a literal, fatal way of living. So what's actually going on when we close our eyes? This is the core thesis of the book. Sleep is not just some passive, uniform state where you just power down and do nothing. The author describes it as a complex Swiss Army knife of health. It's essentially Mother Nature's best effort at contra-death. Literally every major organ in your body and every process in your brain is completely reset and upgraded by sleep. Now let's pivot to something we all know too well, that dreaded afternoon slump. Why is it that you inevitably crash at, say, 3 p.m., even if you chugged a massive coffee earlier in the day? To figure that out, we have to look at what we're actually using to survive our workdays. The big error here is how we view our daily coffee habit. We just kind of assume that caffeine somehow replaces the sleep we missed, or that it gives our bodies actual, genuine biological energy. But Walker points out a hard truth. Caffeine is not a food supplement. It is a highly powerful psychoactive stimulant. And buying into that illusion comes with a serious price tag. Caffeine is just putting a temporary mask over your exhaustion. Eventually, your liver enzymes are going to clear that caffeine out of your system. And when they do, bam, you get hit with this massive, accumulated chemical crash. You're suddenly feeling the full weight of all that exhaustion you've been hiding from, all at exactly the same time. To understand why that awful crash happens, the book introduces us to the mechanics of wakefulness. There are actually 2 entirely independent biological forces at play here. First, there's process C, which is your 24-hour circadian rhythm. This naturally rises and falls based on the time of day. But then you have process S. This is the buildup of a chemical called adenosine in your brain, and it creates something called sleep pressure. Let's map this onto a normal day. So it's 7 a.m., your circadian rhythm is kicking into gear, and assuming you slept well, your brain has cleared out all that adenosine, you feel awake. Fast forward 3 p.m., and that adenosine has been quietly building up all day long. By 11 p.m., your adenosine levels have peaked, the pressure is immense, creating this completely irresistible urge to just pass out. So where does caffeine fit into this mechanism? Well, Walker explains that caffeine basically hijacks the system. It artificially mutes your brain's adenosine signals by literally blocking the receptors. You're tricking your brain into feeling alert. But, and this is a huge but, the adenosine doesn't stop. It just keeps building up behind the dam the entire time. You're just delaying the inevitable, making the flood of sleep pressure so much worse when it finally breaks through. Okay, new scenario. Have you ever woken up feeling super groggy, or maybe you completely failed to remember something important you learned just the day before? It brings up a really fascinating question. Why do we actually cycle through all these weird, specific stages of sleep? Why don't we just, rest evenly and quietly for 8 hours? Again, the error is in how we visualize sleep. We tend to treat it like a light switch. You flick it off, and you enter this singular, uniform state of unconsciousness until the alarm goes off. But the book totally debunks this. Sleep is actually an insanely active, highly orchestrated biological process. It is anything but uniform. And the consequence of missing out on these cycles is actually pretty terrifying. You see, our brains have a finite storage capacity. Without these distinct sleep stages, Walker notes that we would literally run out of room for new memories. Not only that, we'd completely lose the ability to process and regulate complex emotions from our waking lives. We'd be a total mess. To explain how this works, Walker uses this beautiful analogy. He says sleep acts like a master sculptor. Every single night, your brain is faced with this massive block of raw, chaotic experiences from the day. So it uses the different stages of sleep as its tools. It carefully chips away the unnecessary neural connections and then meticulously strengthens the essential ones you actually need to keep. Let's look at the mechanics of this mental sculpture. Early in the night, you get deep NREM sleep. Think of this as reflection time. It's weeding out the junk and safely storing raw facts. Then, later in the night, REM sleep takes over. This is all about integration. REM connects those newly stored raw ingredients with your past experiences, sparking innovative insights and basically building an updated, accurate model of how the world works for you to use the next day. So we know a lack of sleep scrambles the brain. But what physically happens to your heart when you cut your sleep short by just an hour or two so you can get to the office early? The impact on the rest of your body is just as shocking, if not more so. The common mistake here is thinking we're somehow invincible. We assume we can just train our bodies to adapt to less sleep over time. We kind of think, hey, I eat right and I work out. That'll cancel out the sleep loss. We mistakenly assume our internal organs are just magically immune to sleep deprivation. The reality, though, is pretty terrifying. The data in the book shows that progressively shorter sleep is linked to a massive 45% increased risk of developing or outright dying from coronary heart disease. Let that sink in. It absolutely does not matter how physically fit you are. Your cardiovascular system literally cannot outtrain the damage of consistently shorting your sleep. And Walker explains exactly the mechanism behind this damage. You see, sleep loss acts as a massive, glaring stressor on your body. It instantly triggers an overactive sympathetic nervous system. It basically forces you into this evolutionarily ancient fight-or-flight state, acting like a frantic general rallying all of your body's most intense emergency stress responses. This sets off a very dangerous physiological domino effect. First, a lack of sleep removes the natural resting brake on your heart rate, so it just beats faster. That triggers a sustained deluge of the stress hormone cortisol. All that cortisol then constricts your blood vessels. Ultimately, you end up in this highly destructive, hypertensive state of high blood pressure that is literally destroying your cardiovascular system from the inside out. So, as we wrap up this explainer, the ultimate takeaway from the book is crystal clear. Sleep is absolutely not a luxury. It is, without a doubt, the single most effective thing you can do to reset your brain and body health every single day. It's basically a free, universal healthcare provider for everything from your deepest memories to your heart. Which leaves us with one final thought to chew on. Knowing now that sleep is Mother Nature's ultimate survival tool, actively repairing and upgrading your brain and your body, are you going to prioritize your full 8 hours tonight?
If this video was useful, give it a like, subscribe, and share. More systems and frameworks in the next Eudaimanya video.